Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a text that takes one of the most famous spiritual teachings you've ever heard and, well, flips it completely on its head. So get ready to see something familiar from a totally new perspective.
It all kicks off with this single, incredibly powerful line from the Gospel of Luke. You've probably heard it a million times, right? And most of the time we hear that and think, oh, what a beautiful metaphor for inner peace. But that's where our story really begins.
And here's where things get really interesting, because the source material we're looking at today asks that exact question. What if it wasn't poetry? It treats this statement as a literal, practical guide to a real place inside of you. All right, section 1, the kingdom within. Let's dig into this core idea, that this kingdom isn't some place you go to later, but a reality you can access right now.
Okay, now for section 2, the lost years of Jesus. This is fascinating because according to this source, the whole key to unlocking this teaching is hidden in a part of Jesus' life that the Bible, well, it just doesn't talk about. So, if you look at the biblical timeline, there's this huge, obvious gap. We see Jesus as a kid, age 12 in the temple, and then, poof, he just disappears from the story until he shows up again around age 30 to start his ministry. This source basically says, hey, those 17 silent years, that's the missing piece of the whole puzzle. So what does the text claim happened during that time? Well, it proposes this incredible journey. It says he traveled east, studying in places like India and Tibet. But not just there. It also suggests he visited major intellectual hubs in Persia, Greece, and Egypt. It even touches on legends of him visiting Britain. The point is, this would have exposed him to a massive range of Eastern, Egyptian, and even Druidic philosophies. And to set the stage for all this, the source claims that Jesus was part of the Essene tradition, which was this pretty mystical sect within Judaism at the time. And their beliefs, as you can see here, were really different from the mainstream. They supposedly believed in things like reincarnation and karma and rejected animal sacrifice. They were on a much more esoteric path. This kind of paints a picture of a spiritual foundation that was already way open to these alternative ideas. All right, let's move into section 3, the light of the self. This is really the heart of the matter. So what did all these alleged travels and this unique spiritual background actually lead to? Well, it all comes down to this universal idea of an inner light. But before we get there, we gotta quickly define what we mean by mystic. It's a loaded word, right? But in this context, it has nothing to do with magic tricks or anything like that. A mystic is simply someone who seeks a direct, personal experience of the divine, of the absolute, through looking inward. And that's the lens this text uses for everything. So the source doesn't start with some obscure text. It starts right in the New Testament with a really familiar idea, the association of God with light. God is light. This isn't some foreign concept. The text presents it as a core part of the original teaching. Okay, and this is where it all clicks together. The text takes that biblical idea, God is light, and puts it right next to this much, much older quote from the Chandogya Upanishad, a major text from India's Vedic tradition. Look at that similarity. The source is basically saying, hey, this isn't a coincidence. These are two different cultures describing the exact same universal truth. And that brings us to the central idea, this synthesis. The source gives it a name, Atma Jyoti, which means the light of the self. The proposal here is mind-blowing. It's that this divine shining light isn't just something in us. It is us. It's our true nature, a piece of the same light that makes up the entire universe. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds very high level, very philosophical. But the source doesn't just leave you there. So for our final section, section 4, we're going to look at the practical, step-by-step path it lays out to actually experience this inner kingdom for yourself. And the key word here is simple. The text is really clear that this path isn't supposed to be complicated. It's not about memorizing thousands of pages of scripture or getting into complex debates. Nope. It's all about simple, direct shifts in your awareness, from the world out there to the world in here. The main technique it offers is a meditation that's all about the breath. It's a really simple but profound process. First, you just regulate your breathing, make it slow and deep. Then, you focus your attention on your navel, just feeling the expansion and contraction. After a bit, you shift that focus to your nostrils, being totally aware of every single breath coming in and going out. And the most important part, if a thought pops up, and it will, you don't fight it. You just notice it, and then gently bring your attention right back to the breath. It's all about awareness, not control.
But it's not all just meditation.
The text also really leans on the power of storytelling. Just like the parables you find in the Gospels, this source uses these simple, relatable stories to get across these huge, profound truths in a way that just sticks with you. Take the story of the jeweler and the thief. You've got this master thief trying to steal a precious gem from a jeweler. He searches everywhere, every single day, can't find it. Finally, the jeweler just laughs and says he hid the jewel every night right under the thief's own pillow. It was the one place he would never think to look. And, the message is pretty clear. That priceless thing we're all searching for out there, it's already right here, inside us. Then you've got the frog in the well. This frog lives its whole life in a well and is absolutely convinced it's the biggest body of water in the entire universe. Then one day, a visitor from the ocean comes by and tries to describe something so vast, the frog can't even comprehend it. It's this great little reminder that our own personal well of experience might be just a tiny fraction of a much bigger reality. And finally, there's that famous story of the two wolves. An elder explains that two forces, one of anger, one of peace, are fighting inside us. When asked which one wins, he replies, "The one you feed." This one really hits home because it emphasizes our own active role in all of this. Our inner world isn't random. It's shaped by what we choose to focus on, what we choose to feed. So we end up right back where we started. We went from looking at a single verse in a new way to a wild journey across the ancient world, and all the way back to the simple, quiet act of watching our own breath. The source material really just leaves us with this one final massive question to chew on. What if the greatest truth, the key to the whole kingdom, has been hidden in the most obvious place this whole time?